This morning, Trump issued a post which does nothing less than threaten the Iranian people with genocide. A whole civilization will die tonight, he said, never to be brought back. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will.
So Piers Morgan just delivered one of the most devastating takedowns of Trump's Iran threats. And honestly, he's absolutely right. Trump literally posted about wiping out an entire civilization, 90 million people, on Easter morning. We're breaking down why this crosses every line imaginable.
Those words should be chilling to not only the Iranian people, but to everybody. US presidents don't threaten genocide because the US is not capable of genocide. At least that's the world we all grew up in. If you break with that principle, you break it with it any moral authority the US has, and the world becomes a very different place.
This hits the core issue perfectly. Since 1945, America's moral authority came from being the nation that stopped genocides, not threatened them. Trump's posts don't just damage diplomacy, they shatter 80 years of carefully built international credibility in a single tweet.
But what else are we supposed to do when the President of the United States literally posts a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again? I don't want that to happen, but it probably will, about Iran and the 90 million people that live there. What else are we supposed to do with that but take it seriously and literally?
Exactly right. Presidential words aren't campaign rhetoric anymore. When Obama said red line in Syria and didn't act, it damaged U.S. credibility for years. Trump's genocide threats create the same credibility trap, but infinitely worse given the stakes involved.
I thought that was an astonishing rescue mission. I read the full New York Times account of it, and honestly, it was breathtaking. And I give great credit to Donald Trump for sending in literally the whole kitchen sink to rescue this guy, and they got him out with no loss of life on the American side. Incredible. But it begs the question, Rob, and I'd be very interested in what you feel about this. Trump could have taken a victory lap over that, and everyone would have applauded. You know, Trump could take a victory lap over Artemis, and everyone can applaud this astounding achievement we're watching of human beings going further than they've ever gone before in space.
Rob O'Neill killed bin Laden. His military perspective here is invaluable. Trump had two massive wins with Artemis and that incredible rescue mission, but instead chose to overshadow both with unhinged genocide threats. Pure strategic malpractice from someone who understands branding.
You know, one in which he says, open the fucking straight, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. And the other one, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want it to happen, but it probably will. And, you know, I've known Donald Trump 20 years. He's always shot from his mouth. He's always shot from the hip. He says, you know, he's a trash-talking New York real estate guy. Okay. But now he's the leader of the free world. He's the president of the United States. He's the commander-in-chief of the American military. Would you have felt comfortable if you were still serving with the commander-in-chief posting like that?
This distinction is crucial. Military personnel need predictable leadership, not someone who posts genocidal threats at 6 a.m. The Pentagon has to plan around these outbursts. Imagine briefing allies when your commander-in-chief is threatening to kill 90 million civilians.
And they're saying that even signaling an intent to commit what he's suggesting, a whole civilization being killed, in other words, presumably every Iranian, 90 million people, even an American president signaling an intent to do that could be a war crime. It could already breach international law.
Under Article 2 of the Geneva Convention, threatening to destroy a national group constitutes genocide. The Rome Statute makes planning genocide a crime even without execution. Trump's post could literally trigger international criminal court proceedings against a sitting U.S. president.
Right? Death to all Americans, death to America. This is terrorist language. And I'm just astonished that Donald Trump would post this publicly and expect there to be no legal fallout from that whatsoever.
The comparison to al-Qaeda rhetoric is spot on. Death to America was their signature threat. Now we have an American president using identical language against Iran. The moral authority reversal is complete. We've become what we once fought against.
He's threatening the entire Iranian population. That is what he meant by a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. He's not just threatening the regime or the IRGC. He is being very specific that this will involve the removal of the entire civilization in Iran. That is genocide.
The legal definition is crystal clear. Genocide means intent to destroy a national group in whole or in part. Trump's "whole civilization will die" language meets this definition perfectly. Any international lawyer would prosecute this case in a heartbeat.
They've already come out and said they're now stopping all negotiation with the Americans over these posts. They want nothing to do with them. They're not negotiating. And in fact, they're coming out now saying we're more than happy to give our lives for our country and our cause, which, of course, many people understand that is what the Iranian regime ideology is all about, right? So why would this kind of threat ever work? And also, what happens if we get to 8 p.m. tonight Eastern and Trump doesn't follow through with his threat?
Iran's response proves the strategic failure. They've completely abandoned negotiations and embraced martyrdom rhetoric. Trump's threats didn't intimidate them, they galvanized them. Classic blowback from amateur-hour diplomacy that ignores how authoritarian regimes actually think.
Either he commits a genocide and will be damned for eternity and probably start World War III, or he doesn't do it, the Iranians ignore his threats, and Trump is made to look impotent as a leader. How does this work as a victory for him?
This analysis is devastating because it's true. Trump created an impossible lose-lose scenario. Commit genocide and face war crimes tribunals, or back down and look weak. There's no third option here. He boxed himself into strategic checkmate.
This is basically threatening public brazen genocide. That's what he's doing. There is no defense for this, but I just find it astonishing that there are any people prepared to defend it.
The fact that anyone defends threatening to kill 90 million people shows how far we've fallen. This isn't partisan politics, it's basic human decency. The willingness to rationalize genocide threats represents a complete moral collapse in American political discourse.
I mean, Casey McFarland, I remember the Donald Trump campaigning to be elected in 2024, who couldn't have been clearer. He was going to stop taking America into these Middle Eastern wars. He thought they were ruinous for the economy. They were ruinous on life. He just didn't understand them. He kept telling us how he thought Iraq had been a terrible mistake, and he wanted to stop all this. This was America First, meant looking after American interests in America. And my God, there are lots of stuff that he could be doing to improve the lives of Americans right now. And he made a good start. He shut the southern border. I thought that was an excellent thing to do after what happened under Biden for 4 years. But ever since now, it seems like he's been on a mission to contradict his own campaigning.
This perfectly captures Trump's betrayal of his own base. He ran on ending Middle East wars, called Iraq a disaster, promised America first. Now he's threatening the biggest regional war in history while his supporters cheer. The cognitive dissonance is staggering.
And what could be a bigger contradiction of I'm not going to drag America into these pointless Middle Eastern wars than dragging America into the biggest and most potentially dangerous and ruinous Middle Eastern war imaginable. And now he's talking about wiping out whole civilizations. How does that sit with Donald Trump, the campaigner? Vote for me and I won't do this.
The scale of this contradiction cannot be overstated. Trump's 2024 campaign was built on avoiding these exact conflicts. His voters believed they were choosing peace over war. Instead, they got genocide threats and potential World War III. Ultimate political bait and switch.
But when you do this and you don't act on it, he is relying on the Iranian regime caving. I don't think that ideologically they will do that, because they are basically nihilists. They've already said publicly in the last few hours, we don't care if we die.
Iranian revolutionary ideology embraces martyrdom. They literally built a culture around dying for their cause. Trump's threats are strategically worthless against opponents who view death as victory. He's using the wrong playbook against the wrong enemy entirely.
This is my problem with the way Trump is conducting this war. War is not a game. It's not a reality show. And when people are waking up for the new installment from Donald Trump about the Iran war, and almost when you add all the memes that the White House has been putting out and the Hollywood-style video stuff and so on, none of it sits easily with me, because there is nothing worse in the world than war. But, as you know,
Piers, I agree.
And as Rob knows better than anybody, wars are about as real as life and death get.
The entertainment approach to warfare is genuinely disturbing. Real soldiers like O'Neill understand war means death, not content. Trump's treating potential genocide like a Netflix series, complete with memes and Hollywood production values. War isn't performance art.
Thank you very much to my panel. I really appreciate it.
What makes this discussion historic is seeing military veterans, legal experts, and journalists unite in condemning genocide threats from their own president. When Rob O'Neill questions your military judgment, you've lost the credibility war completely.